In this video, I'm going to tell you how I made $789 just today, and that's in addition to my normal salaried income and YouTube. This is not clickbait. I'm not trying to sell you anything. 2023 is the year of the side hustle, for me at least. It's pretty well established that in order to build wealth, you have to invest somehow. You need to get your money to work making more money. That's what the rich folk do. They don't just work a job. But if you live in such a way that the amount of money you make is just about the same as the amount of money you spend, well, where are you ever going to find money to invest? Graham Stephan says you just make your own coffee at home and that's enough to do it. I say that the fastest way to make it so that you have money to invest is to make it so that you make more money. Find a side hustle. If you just want to hear about the money, skip to this point in the video. For those of you who haven't seen him for a while or ever, this is Chop. He's my dog. He does not like to be picked up because he's very heavy. Ugh. Quick backstory, I dug a giant hole and then jumped in it in 2022. I bought Bitcoin miners for $10,000 a pop. Now they're worth less than $3,000 a piece, and they only make me something like $8 a day. I rolled the dice on a bunch of different DeFi crypto schemes and crapped out on most of them. Or was it all of them? It was all of them. The Bitcoin miners are slowly earning back their value, but the Bitcoin price is going to need to go way up for that side hustle to pan out. I even started an Amazon FBA business that got snuffed out by a little known group I call Big Scissors. Now I'm stuck with literally 9,000 pairs of these household scissors because of a calculated 1-star review campaign from some giant Indian scissors conglomerate that killed off my Amazon store. It's kind of an amazing story, really. And actually, if you need just like a regular pair of scissors for just cutting paper, opening boxes, or whatever, there's a link built into YouTube right under this video to these scissors. YouTube lets us attach products straight to the video now, so maybe I can offload some of these things. I mean, who doesn't need scissors? Anyway, this isn't about scissors. This is about the side hustle. 2023, for me, is the year of the side hustle. I'm gonna leverage the skills and equipment I have to make money on the side, to accelerate clearing out all my credit card debt so I can build a metaphorical ladder to climb out of this financial hole I'm in. Because at the top of this hole is a rocket garage. And in that garage, I will slap engines onto my investment spaceship so that I can blast off into complete and total autonomy of time. That's what's up there in space in my metaphor. Time. I don't want money just to be rich. I want to get the most of the one thing we can't get more of. That's time, again, if that wasn't clear, that's what I'm talking about. So, here we are on my first project. My first side hustle of 2023 actually goes back to a small business I used to run with my wife and a guy named Josh. Hey Josh. We owned an off-road running half-marathon race called the Masters of All Terrain. We would host these foot races in the woods in state parks in and around Central Florida. And as you may be aware, when you run a race, you get a t-shirt at the end, or sometimes at the beginning. Whatever, you get a t-shirt. At first, we were having them printed at some big print shop, and it starts to cost a lot of money when you get shirts in the hundreds. So, being the problem-solving little entrepreneur that I was, I decided to research what it takes to print my own shirts. It turns out the process is pretty easy to do if you're willing to learn and fail and get better and constantly fix new little problems that pop up. Anyway, over those few years, I honed my craft at printing t-shirts. But I also worked a full-time traveling production job with a crew of guys that puts up lights and truss in all of these art fairs. That, combined with owning a rental house that occasionally needed care, I mowed the lawn over there, and the race, I never actually turned screen printing into a money-making operation. It was only ever a money-saving operation. Then the pandemic put Masters of All Terrain to sleep, and it hasn't yet woken up. And this week, I decided to pull it all back out and fire it back up as a new sole proprietorship, the Space Design Print Shop. The idea came about because I got a random call from a construction contractor who used to run our races. And he knew we made our own shirts, and he was asking if I was still printing shirts and if I could make some for his contractors. He needed 100 high-vis shirts, and he was pretty loose on the time he needed them in. I almost said, oh no, all that equipment's packed up and stored away forever. But as we were talking, I figured, well shoot, now I have this warehouse with tons of space. I used to print t-shirts out of the garage of my rental house. I bet the tenants love that. And I've got a YouTube channel where I like to talk about things that are related to money, and printing t-shirts makes money. What a good idea. So I'll fire up the presses. So I agreed to make this guy's shirts, and that was 2 days ago now. Let's talk about the money. Surely that's why you're here. I'm charging $11 per printed shirt. The blank shirts cost me $3.11. And actually, the wholesale blank t-shirt warehouse where I get them is in Orlando, where I live, so no shipping, no waiting. It's actually super handy. I use water-based ink, and a jug of that is about $30, but it'll last like 2,500 shirts, depending on the design. So really, the ink is close to free when you do the math. A couple of pennies per shirt. The only other resources I need are these clear sheets of paper that I use to print out the design, which I still have a bunch from a long time ago. And unbelievably, my big 13x19 printer still works. Those designs then get exposed onto a screen that's covered in emulsion. That's what this green stuff is. The screen is actually yellow. A bucket of emulsion costs about 50 bucks, but that bucket will coat somewhere around 25 screens. And once you make a screen, it's good for as long as you want to use it. So again, that accounts for only a few cents per t-shirt. A couple of screens for the front and backs of the shirts. 2 out of 25 screens per bucket means the screens will cost about $4, spread across 100 shirts, 4 cents per t-shirt for the screens. In order to print a shirt, here's what takes place. I go back and forth a few times with the guy about the design he wants printed. Once he's happy, I print the design onto a clear sheet of film. I coat the screens with a light-sensitive emulsion. This has to be done in a room with only yellow or red light so that the emulsion doesn't get exposed. Wait for that stuff to dry, and then you tape the film on it with the design. Anywhere there's black ink on the film, the light won't hit the screen, and the emulsion stays soft. Anywhere light does hit the emulsion, it gets hardened onto the screen. Then I take the screen over to a wash sink and wash away the emulsion in the exact shape of the design I want to go onto the shirt. Now, ink can pass through the screen only in the shape of the guy's construction logo. This is not the guy's construction logo. This is actually Colin and Samir from the YouTube channel Colin and Samir. Next, I mount the screen onto this manual press. Ooh, I hope there's no camera over there. Put a blank t-shirt onto this flat platen. You dump some black ink onto the screen and swipe across it with a big squeegee. Voila! Printed shirts. This is water-based ink, so I need to evaporate all the water in it, which leaves behind all the black pigment and makes the design permanent. So into the conveyor dryer it goes to cook for a couple of minutes and then fall into this box. That is the whole process of printing a t-shirt. Curious? After the setup is done, it's actually super easy to whip out 100 shirts in a couple hours with the hardware I have. And if you keep doing the math, that's 100 shirts times $11, $1,100. Minus the cost of the blanks, which is $311, and you're left with a profit of $789 for half a day's work that you can do from home. This is one hell of a side hustle if you can manage to find clients that want t-shirts. The most I've ever printed in a single day by hand was 600. 1 out of 10 experience. My body hated the repetitive motions. Would not recommend, but there is a huge profit to be made if you can find those kind of orders. There are, of course, constant little problems you'll need to troubleshoot. Sometimes you'll blow out a part of the screen, or the press needs to be aligned. This can handle up to 4 colors at once, so you need to align them. For instance, this is the actual construction guy's shirt. So this was like the black color, and then there was a gray color that was the outline of the D and the S. So these would be 2 different screens. You print one, zoop, zoop, and then you spin it to the next one, which would be mounted on here. And you print the second one, zoop, zoop. But these have to be like super perfectly aligned for the design to work right. So just little things like that you gotta learn, you gotta work out. Or sometimes your printer won't do its job properly when you're making the films. God, I hate printers, they're just awful. But the skill of doing the printing itself after a bunch of practice is pretty easy. The thing I've always found difficult, and really just because I've never sat down with it as a problem to solve, is finding the clients. That's not just a t-shirt printing problem, that's everything. All that said, the Space Design Warehouse Print Shop is open for business. Subscribe to the channel to see how this plays out, and if you own a business that needs t-shirts printed, by all means, contact me here, my email's in the description. I will not be making anything full color, it's just such a stressful process and I don't want to do it. If you think this looks like something you'd like to try to set up where you live, as long as you don't live in Central Florida and will compete with me, I'm happy to answer any questions in the comments about how to get started. And I'll put links in the description to some of the components you'll need to print some shirts. There do exist these super cheap Chinese screen printing presses, but from what I've heard, you get what you pay for with those, so unless your problem solving skills are like a 10 out of 10, I would not recommend those. I suggest a thing called a Riley Hopkins press. This is the smallest one of those. They make them all the way into these like room-sized things, but they're super sturdy and they will repeat your prints exactly the same over and over and over and over. Even their cheapest ones are good ones. I used to own this monster-sized one where 4 people could be working on it at the same time and it could print up to 6 colors. But I sold that off during the pandemic and kept this little 4-color press. Surprise, that's the end of the video.